Hello, everyone. My name is Bianca Najera Rosell, and I'm the Training and Technical Assistance Coordinator for the New Jersey Self-Advocacy Project. Today, we're going to be talking about healthy communication. So, let's start off by what is healthy communication? Healthy communication is when you listen to someone else. That doesn't just mean listening, but actually trying to understand what they're saying as well. Healthy communication also means being patient when you're having a conversation with someone else. It also means talking with respect, being mindful of everything they're saying and how you're responding as well. Say only the things you mean. So when we're in the middle of a conversation, things that we don't like might be said, which might upset us. So we want to be really mindful of the things we say to not try to hurt the other person in the conversation or say things that we don't mean as well. We also want to explain how we feel. So if the case where we do get upset does come along in a conversation, we want to let the other person that something they might be saying might be making us angry or upset, or explain to them what it's making us feel as well. Body language is really important when it comes to healthy communication as well, especially speaking face to face, so the other person feels like you're really listening to them and you're aware of what they're saying as well. All of this goes the other way around as well. We also want it to be done when we're talking, and that's all part of having healthy communication. So to start off, how can we be better listeners? So to be better listeners, here's some tips. We want to clear our minds. This means we want to get ready to focus on what the other person's saying and not be thinking about a bunch of other topics. We want to prepare ourselves to be ready to listen to this other person. We don't want to interrupt them when they're talking. We want to let them finish saying everything that they have to say before we even start talking. We also want to use respectful body language. So we want to make sure we're making good eye contact, we're keeping our body relaxed, and we're avoiding distracting behaviors. So I always say this one goes along with the place where you decide to have your conversations as well. For example, if you have it at a place where there's a lot of things going on around you, it's really easy to look off to the side and get distracted by other things going on. While if you're at a quiet place where you know you can focus on that person, it's much easier to show them that you want to pay attention to them instead of maybe looking off to the side. So we really want to be mindful of that. We also want to be careful with how we respond. We want to try to respond in a patient and calm way as well. We want to use acknowledging responses. So a lot of the times in a conversation, we might say things like, aha, okay, yeah, sounds good. Those responses kind of makes it seem like we're not listening to the other person, or maybe we're hearing those responses being given to us. That might make us feel like someone's not listening to us. So we want to use acknowledging responses that are detailed to what the person's saying, maybe even questions to what they're saying. That shows that we're paying attention. Asking questions can be really helpful. It helps show that we're paying attention, and it helps us understand better something that the other person might have said. Paraphrasing back is another great way to be a better listener. Sometimes we may be unsure what the other person said. We might have forgotten a part of it, or we're not sure if we understood something right. So this really helps us get all of the information as well. And that makes the person feel like we're really listening to them. So we really want to be mindful of this because when in a conversation, we want to make sure that both people involved feel like they're being listened to. This is really important so everyone feels like they're in a healthy communication setting as well. We also want to practice patience. So it's really easy to be in the middle of a conversation. Maybe you might get angry or you're ready for the conversation to be over, but we want to practice being patient. So this means slowing down, trying to focus on what the other person is saying, really listening. It also means thinking before we speak. This helps us take the time to really make sure we're responding in an honest and patient way as well. Taking deep breaths is really helpful as well, especially if we're getting upset. Just reminding ourselves to take a couple of breaths. This can help us relax and respond in a better manner. It also is helpful if we create a timetable or a schedule. We want to carve out time to have that conversation. Set that time for that person to talk with them. That way, we're not thinking about what else we have to do, that we're busy. Just we're only focused on this conversation. Counting to 10 is also helpful, especially if we're having a really upsetting conversation. It's also helpful to write down what we want to say before we get to this conversation. We may already know what we're going to talk about, and we may want to write down everything we want to say. That way, we get to talk about it. We don't forget anything, and we get everything that we wanted to talk about in the conversation. We also want to be considerate. We want to make sure that everyone involved in the conversation gets their thoughts and feelings completely out, but we let them say everything that they want to say as well. And if it's necessary, we may need to take a break from the conversation. If you're involved in a conversation that's getting really upsetting, you or the other person may be getting really angry or upset. It may be time to walk away from the conversation. Let them know, hey, can we come back to this another day? Or, hey, let's take a couple of minutes and just walk away. Take a couple of breaths, drink some water. Just give yourself some time to relax and the other person as well. And then come back to the conversation can be really helpful as well. It is a great way to practice patience. We also want to talk with respect when it comes to having a healthy communication. To talk with respect, we want to use respectful language. So we don't want to say anything rude or mean. It's really easy to say something we don't mean when we're getting upset or angry in a conversation. So we want to be mindful of this and not say anything that might hurt the other person. We don't want to yell or raise our voices. We want to talk in a normal speaking voice. Because if we start to yell or raise our voice, this just helps the situation rise and get worse. So we want to be really careful with this as well. We want to be honest. We want to try to explain how we're feeling in a respectful manner. So it's really easy when we're getting upset to add things to what we may be saying that may not be true or exaggerate things. So we want to be cautious of that. We also want to be specific. So try to add as much detail or you find necessary in a conversation so the other person can better understand you. You may need to ask for a summary in case you're not understanding what the other person's saying, and that way you are really getting the full story. And remember, it's really important to respond. Be mindful of this. You're not trying to react, so you're in the middle of a conversation where you may be getting upset or angry. Just try to respond, try to explain yourself, and not react, not let those emotions take over as well. Try to stay calm. And one of the most important things when being respectful in a conversation is keep in mind that you're trying to resolve conflict and not win them. Sometimes that means that we may need to come to a compromise so we both win. We don't want to win the conversation. We don't want to be right. We want to resolve whatever's going on in the conversation, whatever we're disagreeing. We want to come to a resolution as well. House. So, something helpful is keeping in mind what you might replace certain phrases with. So, there's a lot of things that we can say when we're angry, and we may not mean them, and they just came out. So, for example, when we're really upset, we might start to scream at someone and say, I hate you. But something that we could say instead is, I'm very upset with you right now. That lets them know how we're feeling, and we're saying it in a calm way as well. We could also say, you don't care about me. But instead, we could say, I was hurt by what you did. We could even be more specific and explain to them why we're feeling that way. You could also say, you never helped. But instead of saying that, we could say, I needed your help and you weren't there for me at that moment. Out of anger, we might say, go away. But out of instead, we might say, I need some space right now, but I do want to work this out later at another time. So there's a lot of things when we're getting angry or upset that we might say, and it may sound rude. So we want to try to avoid these moments and still let the other person know how we're feeling without hurting anyone in the conversation as well. So, how can we communicate when we're angry? Because it's really easy when we hear something we don't agree with to start getting upset, and we may react in a way that we might not think it was a good way later on. So, how can we do this when this moment comes? We can sit with our anger without speaking. This may be really hard, but the more we practice, the easier it gets. It helps us calm down and really think about what we're going to say. Sometimes we may even need to take a break and just go get some air. And what's really helpful is trying to understand why we're getting angry, trying to understand our feelings and what's really making us upset. We want to think about what we're going to say before we say it. We want to be really mindful of that so we don't hurt the other person. Using I feel language to express ourselves is really helpful. I feel helps us let the other person know the way we're feeling and why. So we really want to try to learn from our anger as well. So what upset us this time and what do we do about it? That way we can avoid it the next time as well. So we just want to be mindful of what we're going to say, why we're getting upset. Just really take that time to think about it as well before we respond. Can be really helpful. We want to explain how we feel as well. So this means we want to focus on the facts, not use any hypothetical situations, really talk about what might have upset us. We want to use I statements. We don't want to assume how they're feeling or what we're thinking. We just want to share how we're feeling, what we're thinking as well. What can be really helpful in these situations is talking privately. As I had mentioned before, it's really important to choose the setting where you decide to have this conversation. So nowhere where you're going to be easily distracted. Make sure you choose a location where you can focus on the other person and really listen to them. You want to be honest with that person. Really let them know how you're feeling. And maybe even prepare ahead of time what you're going to say. You also want to try to tailor the message, especially with someone you really know well. You might already know how they might react to certain things you say, so this can help you talk to them and be prepared ahead of time. And that body language is also really important. So make sure you're really facing that person, your body's relaxed, that you're demonstrating to them that you're paying attention and you're making good eye contact as well. Be committed to working on whatever the conversation may be about. Just focus on talking with each other as well. Really try to eliminate those distractions as well. And now a little bit of fun. A really good game that you can work on to practice healthy communication is Taboo. You can work this one-on-one or in a group setting. It might be that you need. So you want to work together to try to guess. So one person will be leading this. They'll have these cards in front of them. The word at the top is the word that you want everyone else to guess, and the words on the bottom are the words you're not allowed to say. Now, everyone else listening, or maybe just one person, they really want to try to listen to maybe clues that are being given, or if they're in a group, to what others are saying, and work together to try to figure out what the word is. So when you're listening to everyone and you're working together, you're working on having healthy communication because you're listening to each other, you're understanding each other, and you're working together to come up to a solution as well. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening today. If you have any questions or comments or would like to schedule a training, you can reach me at my phone number listed here. You can reach me at my email, or you can request a training on our website as well. Again, my name is Bianca Najera, and I am the Training and Technical Assistance Coordinator for the New Jersey Self-Advocacy Project. Thank you for listening today.